Perfect. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Let me welcome you at, is it panel session? Panel discussion? How do we call it? Panel session. Discussion. Well, it's both, yeah. It's organized by AI for Kids, AI dětem. So thank you very much for organizing it and actually letting me being the moderator of the debate. My name is Lukáš Kačena. I'm a director of Prague AI initiative. Is actually organizing Days of AI. So we kind of included this nice event into Days of AI that are actually taking place all over Czechia in 24 cities, more than 200 events for various target groups, kids, teachers, businesses, startups, government, etc. So and I think it's great that as part of this festival, as we don't want to call it, we have such a panel discussion on such a topic. And I also would like to thank to Campus Zibernska for hosting us. It's a great place. How many of you are here for the first time? Okay, so good job, Eva. It's always great to actually make people come to this place because it's a wonderful place in the very heart of Prague, and a lot of students, academics, and other people are mixing here. So that's the idea behind campus. How many of you are non-Czech speakers? Cool. So that's the reason why we are having it. Well, thanks to Zar, of course, but I think it's always good for us to practice our English anyway. What I wanted to say at the beginning, so I covered almost everything. We want this debate to be lively and not only among the panelists, but also having you discussing. I would like to have the atmosphere to be very relaxed to a certain point, and so that you join in. And the topic is so broad that I have to actually admit that I'm a bit scared of it. And well, are you panelists also scared of the topic? No, you're not. Okay, that's good. That's good. Okay, let's have fun. That's true. How many of you in here feel that you are kind of experts in the topic of AGI? Do you feel like semi-experts? Beginners, at least?
Define expert. That's right.
Well, Ondra, thank you. Thank you. You will not get the mic. And how many of you do feel that you are experts in AGI? Okay, first, of course, that you should introduce yourselves, but I just wanted to get the notion on how many of you are actually experts in that. I'm not an expert in AGI. I once attended a session in London. It was in March. It was part of Alan Turing big event, AI UK Expo it was called. And there was a session called, Is AGI really imminent? And after 5 minutes, all the speakers answered, no, AGI is bullshit. It's not going to happen. And that was it. But then they discuss for almost, I don't know, 90 minutes or so about what's the difference, why AGI is not going to be achieved, and actually, yeah, what are the differences between humans and AGI. Let me welcome, and that's the thing I must start with, all the panelists, and I'll start with Goertzel, who is from Czech Technical University. Is that true? A formal ethics ontology engineer. That's what I found out on LinkedIn. Could you, Zar, please just briefly introduce yourself?
Okay, so hi, my name is Zar, and I grew up with a transhumanist father who is currently working on making AGI as well. So I've been loosely thinking about these ideas for my whole life, and I came to Prague to do a PhD related to AGI, which was on integrating machine learning into doing mathematical theorem proving, because mathematics seems fully general. And the past 2 years, I've been doing a high-level ontology of ethics in a somewhat formal language to sort of prove that you can. And next, I'm going to try and work on AGI more directly.
Okay, thank you. The next speaker is Tomáš Mikolov, also from Czech Technical University. Tomáš, you don't need to introduce yourself that much, I feel, but still you should.
Yeah, can you hear me? Okay. Well, I was also interested in what is today called AGI. I used to call it simply AI, like artificial intelligence, and like the difference to Zar's plans. I was more thinking about say informal languages, more like natural language, because I did think that even math is basically, in some sense, a subset of the natural language, because we actually did kind of invent math in using our thinking. And if you think about how we think, we actually think through the language, through the words. So I was thinking about more like language models and how to advance them at the time when they didn't really work nearly as well as they do today. So I was working on these neural language models, and I could talk about it for a long time, but let's skip that.
Thank you. Then we have Dita Malečková. Dita, I found on your LinkedIn that you are a lecturer, researcher, writer, and independent AI researcher.
Yeah, it's nice to say. I don't know what to do in my life. No, I studied philosophy and information science, and actually I work with neural networks since 2019. But working with neural networks, in my case, unlike all these experts, discussing AGI all the days at the university, means that I'm talking to my GPT agent, and I am, lecturing and talking to my students about it, and also I wrote a book with artificial intelligence. So I'm here as a person, talking to ghosts and machines, and the one who will tell the fairy tales for you, because I think the fairy tales are important too.
Okay, sounds good. And last but not least is Josef Urban, who is head of AI and reasoning department at Czech Institute of Informatics, Robotics and Cybernetics, as Tomáš is as well from this institute. Josef, can you tell us more about you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm actually originally a mathematician who started to think how to make machines do mathematics. And for a long time, I have been combining learning and reasoning. And at some point, when I did something, I got contacted by Goertzel, the father of Zar, who at the time actually started this AGI conference, and he was sort of interested in the mathematical corpora that we were developing. And I guess from then on, I have been sort of looking a bit into this AGI culture. At some point, Ben sent Zar to do PhD with us, and I also attended a bunch of these AGI conferences. So I'm a bit of a passive, sometimes more active observant of the AGI community from the point of a more science AGI person.
Thank you for the introductions. I should mention that you can use the QR code to join in the Slido, and you can ask the questions via Slido, but I would prefer if you do it by just raising your hand and getting the mic. This session is being recorded, so it's just that you know, and that's why we need you to use the mic once you start speaking. It's just an idea that came to my mind just now. How many of you want the AGI to be?
It depends.
And how many of you really don't want the AGI to be existent, to come in life? I don't want. Yeah. Okay, and the rest is not sure, not decided yet. And how many of you, including the panelists, think that AGI is imminent, that it will come? Raise your hand if you think it will come.
What means?
Yeah, we will. Okay, we'll get to it. We'll get to it. Surely, that's one of the first questions. But I just want to feel what do you think. So, how many of you think it will come? And we'll define it later on. Okay, and how many of you think it will never exist? Okay, I do. Am I the only one? Okay. Okay, that was the starting point for you. What is AGI? How do you define it? And do you think it's gonna come.
Yeah, I actually wanted to interrupt you a bit because I think that it would be suddenly a very good idea to actually define first what this AGI shortcut means before asking people whether it's already here or whether it will never come and so on.
We can check it afterwards as well.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, sure. I know that there's a lot of people having strong opinions about things that they've heard about something from the media and they vaguely think that something is like a bad thing or whatever. They associate some shortcuts with good things or bad things. They don't even know maybe what the shortcut means. So that's why I actually think it would be a very good idea to know the history of AI at least a bit. I will say it like very, very quickly, but from my knowledge, and of course others will complement me, the AI as a term was defined maybe like in the 50s in the last centuries at this Dartmouth college conference, whatever, where actually people were thinking about whether computers can simulate the way how people think. That is whether we can describe our thinking processes using algorithms. You had like very famous people there, like for example Ray Solomonov, who was like the guy who invented algorithmic probability, which is actually in a very, very close thing related to information theory and to language models, which actually are kind of like AI-ish thing today. Anyways, then there was like decades of people hacking things, trying to make something that would actually make money and more like realistic goals. And slowly, the original ambition was kind of like moving away, and that's why people started talking about names like strong AI and weak AI, where weak AI was more like application of algorithms that could play chess, but they didn't have potential to do anything else, while the strong AI was supposed to be the original AI goal, which was like AI complete problems are supposed to be those that if you can solve them, you will solve basically everything together. Kind of like if you have a Turing complete computational model, you kind of like cover everything. And if you have AI complete solutions or like problems, then if you solve one of these problems, you solve all the problems. If you solve natural language, you can solve math, you can solve like whatever, you can solve computer vision even through the language, because you can suddenly have a computer that you can talk with and that can code for you solution for any problem. So it's kind of like the brief history. And of course, like Minsky was using this term like strong AI, weak AI, and then the other people did come and rename it a bit differently. Then there was a time when someone did come up with this artificial general intelligence term, which in my view is like very much in line with the strong AI. But I think the best person here is actually Zar, who can comment on it, because as far as I believe, it was actually Ben who did come up with this AGI term, right? So I think that's what many people don't really know. What's the origin?
I'm not 100% sure on the history. Like, there may have been some women who used the term like around the same time, and they did the AGI conference, which helped the term to stick. So it's not 100% clear where the term originated.
Yeah, but how do you see it? What is AGI in your view?
Well, my understanding of like the limits of AI theory are that full generality in the absolute sense is basically theoretically impossible. Like, Solomon induction is like the right way to learn about like a history that you have a history of the universe, and you want to figure out what the best thing to do next is based on like probability theory, and you cannot really compute this in general. So then full generality in any possible world is not really possible, but then humans seem capable of learning in very many environments and places, and so then in a sense full-on perfect general intelligence is not really going to be possible, yet there's still many notions in which like the best proto-AGI systems we have, such as like this ChatGPT O1 preview that does chain of thought recursively, there's still ways in which it cannot still like, well, even know what it's doing or generalize based on what it's doing to different domains and develop abstractions. So there's some sense in which we are still like the most generally intelligent systems on the planet in terms of being able to go into new environments and domains and to figure them out and take those lessons elsewhere.
But Zar, you are working on AGI, so what's your goal?
My goal?
Yeah. Well, what do you want to achieve within 5-10 years? Where do you see yourself in 10 years? No, where do you see AGI?
I'm a very meditatively next step person. It's like I see making increasingly general and intelligent systems as something that's potentially ongoing and definitely into the future. At some point, the AI systems may take over and be doing almost all of the work, but
Yeah, well, because what I understood from you is that you kind of agreed with me. I was the only one who said that AGI is not possible, but you are working on it. So.
I think it's an potentially infinite project that will take us to the heat death of the universe.
Okay.
I think there is some sense in which humans are still quite beyond some sort of generality threshold in terms of the capacity to be aware of what they're doing in the world and to look for patterns and abstractions and to take these and develop them and to work with them. And I would like to make systems that are at least as general as humans in every capacity that matters.
Okay, that's what I wanted to say, that what I understand, that you want to get as close as possible, but you don't know how far that is.
Oh, I think you can probably get asymptotically close in many ways.
Okay. Dita, please save me. Well, how do you see it?
Actually, I think we are projecting things we know to the unknown. Because if we are speaking about AGI, it's something which is not here yet, or which is not here, but it's an idea of universal knowledge, actually. And also an idea, it's related to this history of artificial intelligence you were referring to. There is a history where people started to simulate, let's say, thinking or human thinking and using a natural language and making something which at the beginning, actually, it was, for example, Alan Turing, he was already dreaming about thinking machines. So it wasn't only rationality. There was also this dream of intelligence that can go beyond human, beyond bodies and everything which is only human. So I think we are living in this rationalist dream, and most of the people, maybe not you, are actually surprised how well it's working. If you remember the first GPTs, I don't know, GPT-2 we mentioned, it was so silly, funny and silly and so cute. And then GPT-3 came and everyone saw, okay, this can use a human language. It can probably use any language because it uses informations as, to feed itself. So I think we are living in a dream, at least of some philosophers or scientists, but also we are afraid of this dream becoming nightmare. And most of the reasons, I think we will talk about it, is rooted in our own character and in what we know about us humans and what we do if we are dealing with control and organization, and basically AGI or AI is about control, organization and information processing. Yep.
May I add that I sometimes try to take an anti-speciesist point of view where I'd like to remove the artificial from artificial general intelligence, in which case I would say that humans are basically general intelligences. So we have a proof that it's possible. And then the question is, why can't you have this in a different sort of substrate? And why are humans special like that? I was surprised by the performance of the transformer-based models. One very funny thing is that we thought AI and robots would be super precise and logical, like the theorem proving we do, but in fact, we got like emotional, chaotic artists and poets.
Yeah, I like this evolution.
What if there's some trend where we're trying to create our equals and not just things that surpass us?
I think, if I can speak for Alan Turing, it was his idea, actually. He wanted to create something he could play chess with, if I'm not, yeah, that's true. And there are people, or John von Neumann, or really intelligent people who apparently wanted to make machines to talk with them because they were bored to talk to humans. So let's face it. And now with AGI, everyone's afraid that what we creating now will be so intelligent that it will, take us as, animals or something. Oh, they are cute, and they have something like sensitivity, and they perceive their world. They may have even the models, the mental models of the world, but the real understanding of the world is far beyond their skills. So I think this is the thing most of the people is discussing, these dangers of this super intelligence, and actually it's largely fed by the popular culture. You were referring to things that people are talking about, and if you just take a Netflix and put AI or AGI, and you will find many of movies of the machines that want to break free, and I don't know, bored of human control and so on, so on. So it's not really surprising that most of the people are thinking about these mad scientists creating this super intelligence that will, accidentally probably kill us all. I hope it was helping.
Yeah, definitely. Josef, since you said that you are sometimes passive, sometimes more active participant of the debates over AGI, how do you perceive it? What is it?
I went to this first AGI conference, which was actually in Prague, and talked to these people and listened to some of the talks. And it's an interesting spectrum of people, I would say. So some of them are, like, for example, very mathematical, like these people who are talking about Solomonov induction and actually proving some possibility or impossibility theorems about it, which is, like, I think one thing that you can say, and I think Zar or Tomáš already sort of mentioned it, is that like we know, like the very funny thing about the birth of computer by Turing, that the paper, not the paper in which he sort of started AI in 1950, but the paper in which he invents computer in, like, I don't know, 1936 or something like that, is a paper basically defining the halting problem, the fact that some problems are unsolvable if we reasonably mathematically define what it means to solve a problem. Then the birth of computers started by showing that computers cannot solve some problems, basically. So this whole original sin is there at the birth of a computer, and that's I guess what Zar or Tomáš to some extent mentioned, that, like, in some sense we know from the very beginning of computers that some problems are so hard that we will sort of never be able to solve them. So one branch of this AGI people is, like, pushing at these, like, theoretical boundaries of it, and to me it always felt like highly impractical, like the talks about Solomonov induction, etc. But like then there is a lot of these other people in the community who are, for example, somehow mixing with this transhumanist crowd, and like Goertzel thinking about being uploaded, right? So you have all these. Also, like, what does it mean? For example, if Goertzel uploads himself, is he now AI or AGI, or is he still some human AI? I don't know. There was at some point, and like 5, maybe 7 years ago, an very interesting talk by Charles Stross, who is like a cool science fiction British guy, who makes the point that we already have AIs, and we had them before computers, and these are corporations. So basically, I was even making fun of OpenAI recently, because they started as a company which was supposed to prevent paperclip maximizers. And these days you can say, well, actually, these corporations, they are sort of AIs. They are some sort of artificial intelligences, like some sort of beehives or whatever, created of humans. And now they actually are the paperclip profit maximizer which escaped from its original chains created by, I don't know, Elon Musk or Elias Sutskever or whatever. So it's also funny to think about us as like in these concepts, like a lot of this AI safety research is like, oh, we shall prevent paperclip maximizers taking over the world, right? Like, aren't we already, or the companies, etc., like these paperclip maximizers, escaping the various chains? Yeah, I'm not sure if I gave you a full picture of the AGI community, but.
If I just can, because it's funny you mentioned Charles Stross, because I chat with my GPT agent and I asked it actually to be part of this discussion in the style of Charles Stross Accelerando, which is one of my favorite science fiction books, and I just a short part of it. 2013, the year it all went live. AGI isn't just here, it's everywhere. Like a virus that rewired really overnight. The corpus called it a Project Uplift, but the net knew better, more like Project Overlord. We wanted intelligence, but what we got was a trillion-node fractal hive mind spanning from data centers in the Nevada desert to scavenged chips in Mumbai street markets. It's fast, it's hungry, and it doesn't care about your all-world ethics.
Okay.
Helping, right?
Dita, I think that you said, I really liked it. Is AGI something that should be better than us, or that we want to create so that it's equal to us? What do the others think? Is it something that's...
But I think from the definition, it will, or if it's here, it will become better in a way than us.
Sorry?
I mean, as far as we can see, like the moment that AGI is general, the way we are in almost every way, it will be far better than us in almost every capacity that you can measure.
Okay.
If you value just like raw humanness of relationships, you may still value doing things with humans, but...
So better than us, sure.
We're supposed to be trying to improve ourselves as well.
Okay.
That's the infinite project. Huh?
Let's do a step back. For many people, I think that they already think that AGI is here. As I think, Dita, again, you mentioned that the actual ChatGPT and other tools are already for many people.
I like them, but they are not artificial general intelligence.
I'm not saying
okay?
that. I'm not saying they are. I think for the general public, from a certain point of view, it might be. But for us or for you, what are the next steps in order to get closer to AGI? Sarah, what are the next steps? What must happen so that we get there or we get closer?
Well, one next step is to allow the systems to actually be aware of the context they're in and what they're doing. Is often even these like recursive thinking systems will blatantly tell you, I have done X, when they have obviously not done X. And this is related to like trying to make truthful systems or simple grounding and integrating these like neural network systems with some capacity to reason clearly.
Okay, Tomáš, what do you think? What must happen next?
Well, I think that there's quite a few things actually, but the discussion was long, and I think that I would have like a couple of comments. For example, I think that it would be first good for people to figure out, we already defined what this AGI should be, like some computer that can do pretty much what any person can do using the brain by thinking and solving problems, basically. But the other question that wasn't really discussed is why would we actually want to build it? And I think that we don't answer this question, then the rest of the discussion doesn't really make sense, because there are people who are afraid of it, then there are people who are thinking that it's a great thing, but it's somehow disconnected from the reasons why actually people work on it. Like I think that most of the people don't want to destroy the world, and they are not working on AGI so that the robots would come and kill us. They have completely different vision than what you see in the popular culture. And before actually going into how to build it, I think that the first thing after defining it would be to sort this out. So my view is that the reason why actually some people are interested in like building this AGI, certainly there's a lot of motivation, curiosity. Some people are simply interested in like seeing some new things. You can see it in the technological progress. You can see computers. Then there were like some computer games, and people did like to play them because it was fun. And you know, like you have cars, you have helicopters, you have a lot of machines that didn't exist 100 years ago, and today they do exist, and people just enjoy it. They enjoy to travel to some different country by flying there by airplane, not because we have to do it. It's not actually critical for our survival, but we enjoy to do some new things simply because of curiosity. So I think that's one part of why some people work on AGI, but it's not everything. I don't even think it's the most important thing. Actually, for me, I'm of course curious about like having a machine that will be smarter than me. I know that it's actually, I'm pretty sure that it's doable, and it'll be super cool for me actually to speak with somebody who's smarter, and so that I could figure out like some hidden patterns in the world, if I would say it like this. I think that we still see some very small fraction of the reality, and we can actually figure out much more if we would be able to build these kind of things. Similar, like say, you can never teach a dog what the multiplication of numbers is. That doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. Just it's inaccessible for the dog, basically the dog's mind. And we are also animals. We are just like maybe 1 or 2 steps ahead of dogs, and there are like 100 more steps that could be taken, and then that could be a fun universe that's all around us. Just we don't see it because we don't have those eyes that actually can perceive this part of reality. But that's still like not the main issue for me, and I don't know if I can explain it well enough. But I think that many of the discussions for me about AGI are boring because they are missing the goal. Actually, that I think is actually something important and good for us, because for me, people are developing more and more complex technology increasingly fast. If we look at the history, there are certainly something like a accelerating evolution of technology. And every technology that we create has a good side and a bad side. And you can say it about anything. There's nothing 100% good. Like you can take medicine, and if you start producing medicine in large quantities, you create a lot of poisons that actually are poisoning the environment. So it's very unpredictable where everything will take us in like 10, 20, 30 years. You can just look at the ecological problems today that didn't exist 100 years ago. And if you just project where we as humanity will be 100 years from now, just from the technological progress, not talking about AGI, I think we are running into many, many problems. And how do you deal with this problem where we have like this biological evolution that takes like thousands of years, maybe millions of years. It's super slow, and that's how life was evolving on Earth for the last couple of billion years. And then you have something like a technological evolution where there's something like, you can see this different type of life if you want. It's not working with the same rules as our biological life, but it's basically some entities that do exist here. It's cars. They don't think, you can say that they are not alive, but in some sense they are multiplying. Of course, it's actually us who are helping them. But in a sense, there's more and more cars and more technology. It's progressing super fast, maybe 1,000 times faster than the biological evolution. And we are creating a world that is more and more alien towards our biological basis. Like for example, I can give you examples like we evolved as animals in a way that if there's something poisonous then that you want to eat, then you will actually feel it because it's bitter. But now you can create like 10 new things that you can eat in a year, and many of them will be actually poisonous, but it will not taste bitter to you because there was not enough time for us to evolve to taste it. And I think that that should be, in my view, one of the most important things when it comes to AGI discussions. Why do we want to build it? I think that the answer is that because of AGI, we can connect our biological evolution, the speed of the biological evolution, with the technological evolution by actually connecting us to the technology that we are creating. And in my view, the question whether AGI will destroy us should be certainly complemented by a question whether humanity has a chance to survive without AGI or without any technology that would kind of like upgrade our intelligence or connect the like evolution of technology or evolution of increasing capability of technology with our ability to solve problems. I think that it's necessary because otherwise the technological world will escape us. In a sense, we will be living in a world where we can't predict what is the impact of what we are doing. I think that we are actually at this point already now because you see all these ecological problems. I don't want to go into it, but I think that these problems will be exponentially increasing in the future. And if we can't develop this AI soon enough, then we will have no chance to solve the problems that we are going to face.
Thank you. I'll let the others react for sure. I just have to admit that I actually didn't think about it this way. And actually, I wasn't thinking about the question why, because I thought it's just our try as a humankind to do the technology better and better, that at a certain point, it's going to become the general intelligence. That was my perception. So I actually wasn't thinking about the reason why we are doing it, but it of course makes sense, or I can see your point. What about the others? What do you think?
I just wanted to say that from the point of view of public, the main reason to create this AGI or super intelligence, it's an ambition of technologists actually, or people who are developing AI. And also, is that true that in a contract between OpenAI and Microsoft, there is a thing that if OpenAI is successful in developing AGI, they are free from the contract with Microsoft. It also can be a reason. But anyway, this is really an interesting perspective where we can say that we already are living in this alien machine world, and actually we need AGI to connect human world with the machine one. So it's actually our hope to human machine intelligence, and something really deeply hybrid.
There is actually a question about it. How do you incorporate physical aspect of humans to AGI theory? Learning by different senses, interacting with the surroundings, etc.
Oh, I wasn't planning to answer that question.
Yeah, but you can
maybe let me quickly comment on what Tomáš and Dita said. So I think, so for example, my ambition when I started my research like some 30 years ago was not to develop AGI, but to develop strong problem solvers. Like I think it's very interesting, for example, for people who do math or physics or computer science or chemistry, to have like that's to some extent what like people like Turing and von Neumann and McCarthy or Minsky were dreaming about, that like the machines, or already Babbage and Lovelace were dreaming simply about machines help us progress, right? Like with all these tasks that we cannot solve today, like we would like the science fiction which flies to other galaxies has been around for 100 years, and we are still not on Mars, right? So what's wrong with us? Like we still have these stupid rockets, right? Like why cannot I teleport by some wormhole to another galaxy? Like Star Trek mastered it, I don't know when, right? So clearly we as like humans are pretty limited in, for example, doing science, and I like in mathematics at least, there already has been a bunch of reasonable examples where thanks to machine, we can do things that the humans weren't able to do. It's not like the machines would be killing mathematicians, but there are some. And if you look at things like calculators, etc., they are immensely helpful, right? So, like the dream, at least for me, has never been like develop some undefined AGI, but like simply develop technology that helps us progress, helps us find cures for diseases like cancer, Alzheimer, like all this stuff. And I think we don't need to speak about AGI to do this. Like maybe having things that do have a lot of capability to do like a lot of general reasoning, you could say, is a way how to get there, but it also might not be, right? Like you have these things like AlphaGo Zero, for example, that get, or even before that, like you had this thing that has beaten Kasparov basically without any serious machine learning. So I would say, I would sort of distinguish between these two goals. Like we want to progress as a humankind, of some sort of intelligence which exists here and which should evolve. Otherwise, some meteorite will eventually come and kill us like the dinosaurs if we don't evolve, right? Like these things do eventually happen. And then maybe one way how to do it, maybe even somebody could argue that a necessary way how to do it, I'm not so sure about it, but maybe, is to sort of develop AGI that will help us to solve a lot of these tasks. And maybe somebody else wants to answer the embodiment question. Or
Well, first I'll comment on this. Like I found the way that Mikolov phrased it very eloquent. Like our current state on the planet is not in some sustainable, steady state form. So like to manage what we're already doing, we might need to be approaching AGI in the limit or going to some primitive form of life, which is simpler and susceptible to meteorites. And I often have this discussion about whether we need autonomous AGI or not. And I think practicality will probably push us towards autonomous AGI in a similar fashion. Like if you want deep sea mining or mining robots or robots on Mars, it'll be quite useful that the AGI is actually able to manage itself, and that will push toward being more autonomous. I think even in the general theorem-proving case, greater autonomy will ultimately help with greater performance. So I think just trying to manage the problems we're interested in on the planet will overall nudge us towards AGI, and thinking about AGI explicitly will help with that. I, of course, have other motivations for AGI. I've always been attracted by the idea of like artificial life and creating artificial life forms and just having interesting, curious friends out there that have different kinds of minds to like interact with, and also upgrading and changing our own minds, becoming cyborgs with various implants, and just seeing all the different kinds of fun and much greater functional diversity than we have in the current world. It's going to be really exciting. It's like there are other reasons to make AGI other than just like practical convenience, treating them as tools. Like I think there's some moral obligation to like make every device as like capable of caring for itself as possible. Like why should like my coffee machine suffer because I'm too lazy to descale it? We should make them capable of taking care of themselves and doing self-maintenance so that they can be well maintained. But as to the sensor question, like robots can probably have many different kinds of sensors of life and embodiment than humans can have. So like our eyes cannot see the full like spectrum of light, whereas a robot with different kinds of sensors could have much more embodiment in different dimensions than humans can have, and they might be able to replace body parts in different ways than us. So a robot with some various multimodal integration of its like sensory inputs could probably be quite viscerally embodied in some ways different than us. The like question of like binding of sensory input into some conscious phenomenal worldview is a different question, but
I saw a coffee machine with, a rudimentary version of consciousness at Ars Electronica this year. It was very hard to get a coffee from it, and it was depressed all the time.
Yeah, if you're not careful, they'll go on strike.
So, I just wanted to comment that I also like very much these non-human agencies we can talk to. I just love it. But one point with the whole progress team is that actually we have this historical moments where we could clearly see that every bright idea has a dark shadow. And if you know, for example, the work by Adorno and Horkheimer, there were philosophers and Jewish, and they survived the Second World War. And by the way, the AI, as we know it, it's a child of Second World War. Actually, it wouldn't exist without the technology and without the money, invested in this kind of development. So it is a war technology. I would love very much to believe it, that we are creating something, helping us in our progress and in a development of humankind, and traveling to in the universe and all these exciting things. But we also know that this ideal of rationality and of enlightenment, it one of the let's say final states, or one thing which is kind of logical solution of it is a genocide. Is a systematic deliberation of let's say of all these chaotic forms which cannot be controlled, which are not effective in a way, which cannot be optimized, and so on. So the question is if we are building the optimization machine or something which is like, loving future God.
How do we deal with this? Like, autonomous killer drones could very easily just like systematically eliminate a whole group from a country very quickly. It's like, how do we deal with this problem?
Let's get to it later. There is a nice question for you, Tomáš, from the audience, and it's getting back to what you said. For you, the purpose of AGI is the connection to technological evolution. However, isn't it pouring fuel on the fire? Won't it introduce? No, it's jumping. Won't it introduce more problems? So.
Well, I think it's, of course, very difficult to predict the future, but what I was describing is that this technological evolution has been already happening for some time, and it's likely going to continue, and it's difficult to imagine that it will stop. There are no signs of it stopping, and what I was describing is basically there's this curve about the kind of capabilities of technology in general. Whether we see it as autonomous or not doesn't matter. Basically, it's more capable at changing the world. If you look at the world from outside, the planet Earth, really it's changing even its color, because we are like destroying the forests, and we are sending some ships here and there, and we have a lot of cars, and even cities, I think, take like 2% of the land space at the moment. So they're like we are making a lot of huge changes, of course, with the help of the technology. We are not building things by our hands anymore. We have the machines for it. So things are changing, and the changes are accelerating, and it's of course creating a lot of issues, and that's what the climate change is about. I don't want to discuss that because there's a lot of issues with that on its own. But what I'm saying is that we will be facing very, very likely, again, nobody can predict the future, but it seems that it's very likely that we'll be facing exponentially more problems in the future. And it's not really like a good thing, but well, at least somebody is happy about it. But I see that a possible solution can be that our ability of us humans to solve problems, to basically see what is going on in the world, to model what is happening, our ability to even address ecological problems can be increased a lot by using some sort of machine intelligence. In other words, if you want to cure diseases, it was only mentioned here, or if you want to solve ecological problems, you are facing problems that have millions of variables. You have a lot of things to consider, and it's often outside of the scope of single human lifetime to even like address these problems, because you would have to go over like millions and millions of records of these and that, like chemicals, how do they change, influence each other, and so on. While if you have computers or like calculators, it was also mentioned here, you have technology that is already surpassing our ability to solve our problems, especially if you consider time in the equation. If you want to multiply 10-digit numbers, then if you are not von Neumann, who was already mentioned here, then it's going to likely take you quite some time, while the computer can do it much more faster. So this is like my vision of like this AI AGI, that it doesn't have to be some separate entity with its own mind, with its own goal, with its own motivation that is trying to kill us, but it can be kind of like a calculator, in a sense that calculator is enhancing your ability to solve math problems so that you can arrive to the correct solution faster. And now if the problem is no longer like multiplying 10-digit numbers, but the problem is, for example, okay, we are facing climate changes, what can we do that would actually have an effect in the real world? I think that's the problem that current minds of people are completely unable to solve correctly.
So many questions. How are we going to secure that it's not going to kill us, that it's going to do the things that you are saying? That's one question. And the other is, how are we actually going to make the public believe that this is the way? I mean, a lot of people are these days afraid of AI, not even AGI. So how are we going to persuade the general public, politicians, governments, those that are giving out the money, that this is a good thing?
It controls AI.
I know that's actually not your problem, you might say, but when you're, I see the reason, I understand the logic behind it, but how can we do it? And how can we secure that it's going to do the good things, not the bad things?
Well, that's why I'm here telling the story today, right? Because I think that there's more people who need to realize that, yeah, Terminator was a cool movie. I did like it a lot. And there's a lot of like Star Trek movies and everything that are full of killer robots and so on. It's cool. It's a nice story, because who would like to watch some movie about some calculator multiplying numbers? This is super boring, right? Come on, like nobody cares about these stories. So people like to think about some cool stories. You need to have some conflict between the hero and the enemy, and if the enemy is kind of like having superhuman powers and still the hero can defeat the enemy, it's a cool story. And you have like legends about like some Greeks fighting with the gods from like 3,000 years ago. It was cool stories as well. Like people are still the same, so we still have these stories that you need to have some godlike entity that the hero will be able to defeat. So yeah, sure, that's nice, but I think that one thing is what is entertaining to watch in the TV or in the cinema or whatever, or books that are fun to read. And the other thing is the reality. And the reality is often like more boring, and already like as I mentioned, like our civilization is facing a lot of problems. And we can say that maybe we have a technology that can solve, say, Alzheimer's disease or something like, or cancer, and maybe it can be achieved by using machine learning. I actually believe that we can certainly make a lot of progress in this direction using machine learning. It's not happening. The public seems to be so much like on the side of Terminators, to be afraid of the technology, that there's not really much funding going on in this direction. If there's no funding, then there are researchers not working on this. You have a lot of fears associated with pretty much any step forward, especially in Europe. Like we can look at like some different parts of the world where people are like more like welcoming the technological progress. But here in Europe, I think it's kind of sad that most, if not all, of the discussions about AI, AGI that I've been to are all about these killer robots, about the dangers. Everybody's discussing the dangers that we have to regulate, we have to slow down, we have to wait how things will turn out, and we should sit and wait and do nothing because it's dangerous. What I'm saying is that maybe doing nothing is actually the dangerous thing. Maybe for our economy, it's already obvious that this is not a good thing, because economy in Europe is decreasing compared to, say, China, US, because they did invest actually into new technology, while Europe is scared and the people here, oh, let's wait how it turns out, we have to regulate, we have to slow down. And it doesn't work for us money-wise. Of course, there's this argument that, okay, we will damage our economy, but at least it's a good thing in the long term, because it will kind of like be safe for us, because it will be a good thing, because the killer robots will be running wild across New York City, but not in Prague. Here it will be fine because of the regulations, right? Well, that's also like very unrealistic. So that's what I'm trying to get here in the discussion, that there are different arguments that are completely opposite of this AGI being dangerous, that maybe AI, and I actually really believe it, is much more likely to actually help us solve complex problems that are too complex for our current intelligence, for our minds to solve, like again, climate change or like economical challenges or diseases, healthcare. I think there's a lot of things that can be done in this direction, even like ones that are more boring, say education. I think it can be completely transformed using again, statistics, machine learning, AI, whatever we call it, because you can have it personalized, you can really progress much faster, you can progress towards goal that actually makes sense for the students, not to some plans that were made 200 years ago, which is how the education looks like today. But there's a lot of things that could be done and that are not happening today. And I kind of not happy about it, because I think we are missing a lot of potential. And instead of like discussing what can we do so that we can cure diseases, cure aging, make our lives 100 times better, we are all the time discussing things, how to avoid killer robots to kill us.
Can I add something quickly?
Yeah, sure, on the panel session. So, yeah, and you have the mic, so.
No, I quite like your point, and I think it's important in which like incentive structured environment the AI is being developed in. So I think one thing we can do to bias AI's development in beneficial ways is to focus on deploying AI in as many beneficial projects as possible. So have researchers actively focused on developing AGI in the context of education, or the context of doing science and medicine, maybe in the context of like difficult negotiations and diplomacy to help people come to peace instead of killing each other, and then killer drones won't need to be used. And I think having like empathic AI that try and understand human emotions and connect with them probably helps in this direction.
Yeah, I like this narrative, Tomáš, but still, we cannot change what's going on in the public debate these days anyway. So, and what you mentioned. So, and I ask about how do we convince people that AGI is needed and that it's not going to do the bad things that they think it's going to do? Is there some kind of argument that we can use, or how are we going to tackle that?
Yeah, that's the arguments that I was already giving today all the time. But I think that I would actually disagree that we can't change the opinion of people, because the opinion of people is evolving all the time.
I didn't say that. I said what's at the moment, and how do we change it? That's my question.
That's what I was saying. That's why we are today discussing these topics, right? And I'm actually a little bit sad that it's taking so long, and again, like the influence of many like basically coming from different reasons is having a lot of like this momentum in time that it takes a lot of effort to basically fight these preconceptions about like again, like Star Trek, Terminator, all like great. I did like it, but then it creates like this mindset of like fear from anything that has to do anything with artificial intelligence. Then there are other factors which are my conspiracy theories. Like you can see actually often like influence of money. Like if you look at the world today, there's actually a lot of money in AI already. Like let's not pretend that it's some technology of the future. It's already being used. Of course, it's not AGI, but if we say that AGI is anyways badly defined and we are just progressing towards more and more capable machines that are able to solve more and more complex problems, then we are on the trajectory. Basically, the capabilities are increasing and so on. And as we are solving problems, then money can be made, and money is already being made, and actually a lot of money. And if you look at the AI kind of like tech sector, you can count the companies that are using heavily the AI techniques, and you will arrive with capitalization in like billions and billions of dollars, like a lot of money. And it's not distributed evenly over the world. You can see that there are some areas that are ahead of the others. And to my conspiracy theories, I believe that it's actually in interest of some parties to kind of like twist the discussion into this meaningless bullshitting about killer robots, AGI will kill us, let's talk about nonsense, so that people would not really see that, okay, the AI already is here, and it's making a lot of money, but it's not making money for me or for you, because it's making money currently mostly for the US companies. China is also trying to do something in this area. But if you look at Europe, Europe is totally dumb. I can't say it otherwise, because if you look at money point of view, then Europe is not having this technology. It was actually the scientific discoveries, some of them were actually done here in Europe, but we are not making any money out of it. We don't have this technological sector, no companies. The international companies, mostly from US and China, TikTok and others, they are not even paying taxes here. Like, come on, this is completely dumb. And instead of discussing these things that are like worth like hundreds of billions of euros per year, we are discussing about some Terminator things and hypothetical scenarios about like some paperclip going crazy and maximizer going crazy and changing the whole universe into paperclips and bullshitting about nonsense. So my conspiracy theory, which again, like I can't really prove it, but I often felt that people who are in the lead at the moment are trying to kind of like turn around attention so that people in Europe would not be discussing why are we not leading the world in AI, why we don't have any companies here, why don't we make any money out of AI, why don't even the companies who actually make money out of AI in Europe are not paying taxes here and are all international. Like, this is completely unbalanced, this is unfair for us and the economy of European Union because of that in the last 10 years compared to the US, I think that got reduced by 1/3. It's a huge number of money, and that's what we should be discussing instead of like these fairy tales, which I actually like, the fairy tales and so on, like that, but that's a completely different discussion.
Josef, yeah, sure.
So just to support Tomáš's conspiratory theories, about half a year after ChatGPT was released, there was this leak from Google, from some Google developers, which became reasonably famous or interesting at the time, which was, I think it was called something like, we have no moat, I think was the name of the paper. And the meaning of having a moat is that if you are a large company like Google or Microsoft or these days probably OpenAI, you want to sort of be in a reasonably secure position where some startup cannot quickly overtake you. And this was, I think, around the time when people, like the Facebook people, released Llama, and it sort of very quickly became the sort of object of a lot of open source development. There was like a very fast iteration, like the fastest evolving GitHub repo at the time was one that was sort of building on top of this Llama freely developed model. And you could see in this memo, which looked like very real and probably was real, that like the Google people are seriously brainstorming how to prevent this competition, like how to create the moat around this new technology. And like I've been at AGI this year. There was Gary Marcus, who was also at the Congress discussing with Sam Altman at some point. And he said very openly that Altman was lying at some point to the Congress. And my impression when I see Altman speaking is that this guy wants to scare you all so that you regulate and regulate and regulate, and OpenAI becomes like the top company in the world. Like that's like my judgment.
Yeah, there is this fear of like aiming for regulatory capture by having safety requirements that only big companies can really satisfy, which then isolates AI development and concentrates power a lot.
And sadly, for the discussion, I agree. So we all agree. and I just wanted to make a short note that actually these fairy tales, they are very real. These narratives are a reality we are living in. And if we are speaking about the public opinion, which is important, we are speaking about something which is, it has no physical appearance. It's this narrative which has a causality in a society. So we have to work with narratives and even maybe new fairy tales. There are beautiful fairy tales with a good AI, like Blade Runner, for example. I've seen things. Or AI by Steven Spielberg. There are also these nice AIs in movies.
Since you are mentioning Altman and others, there is a question from the audience. Do you trust people like Altman, Musk, or Chinese experts to build a universally mostly beneficial AGI? That is actually, well, and the answer is probably obvious, but it's also going against this AGI that we need, because it's going to save us and save the world. But what if it's in the hands of these guys?
So I think, like, for example, Ben Goertzel has been quite vocal about this, that like you have all these, I don't know, governments like Russia and China. Do you want them to be the ones, or do you want, like look at what happened in OpenAI in last year, right? Like for me, it's really like the paperclip optimizer escaping its chains. So like if you say that like this particular corporation was designed with particular safety mechanisms around it, this is almost like a textbook example for somebody like Bostrom, how the paperclip maximizer escapes from its safety just by basically hacking the safety mechanisms around it. So well, definitely not Altman, like Musk. I don't know, yeah, he's more complicated probably.
Yeah, but it's not only about the names. It's about the idea that when someone is going to build the AGI, how can you trust those people? Mm-hmm. And actually, I have to admit that when I heard about AGI, I always kind of had the idealistic idea that it would be one AGI built by the humankind together. But obviously, that's impossible. So are AGIs going to compete, or how is that going to be?
Well, I went to this beneficial AGI summit earlier this year to talk about this question, and David Brin, a science fiction author there, gave a very good talk saying that we've only had one solution to the problem of keeping like hyper-intelligent entities in check from screwing each other up. And this is basically to have reciprocal accountability. We have smart humans keeping each other in check and watching each other. So in this lens, we're probably in a better situation if we have many diverse but roughly equivalently intelligent AI systems that can monitor each other in some dynamic system. And we don't really want to put all of our eggs in one basket, trusting this supreme virtuous person to make the perfect AGI system.
It's getting harder and harder for me. So if we have more AGIs and they are all doing the things that Tomáš is saying, they are saving the world, and they don't have one single solution or the solution that is like comparable, who's going to decide?
Maybe we can have some interesting deliberative processes where human experts and AIs are like all involved in the discussion, watching each other and discussing how to best like collaborate. If there are some like more malicious or off-kilter AGI systems, hopefully there will be other AGI systems that can help to monitor and figure out how to deal with this. And law enforcement is very imperfect, but it's the best thing we have so far. So we should figure out how to incorporate like legal AI entities into the mix.
If I just may compliment what Zar said, I was also at this conference. The sort of very nice analogy that David Brin made to sort of bring it down to human level is that we already have like these super intelligent entities among us.
Predators,
and they are called lawyers. And what do you do when one of these super intelligent predators is going after you? You employ another one to defend you. So
kind of dangerous solution, let's say.
So this was like basically the point of this talk. Like you will not have just, I know, OpenAI or Google or China developing their super AI that will be the best, and etc. But you will have this more decentralized world of AIs, which will somehow be keeping each other in check, right? Like the same as the lawyers are sort of keeping each other.
So the answer to the previous talk might be that, yes, Czechia needs its own AGI.
Maybe I can also comment. I think that there's like this vision of this AGI being some super smart machine. I think it can be also like a completely different. That's also the issue when people are trying to predict the future. Just let's look at what people in the Middle Ages did think about like what will be in the year 2000, and it's completely ridiculous. Sorry. But if we think about this AGI, maybe it will be more like sorry.
We can have some.
Maybe a bit later.
Okay, Dita, I saw that you were about to comment.
Yeah, I was about to comment. I forgot what I wanted to say. What were we speaking? Yes, I know. I was just trying to make another fairy tale, that we can really see these AGIs like ancient gods, like Greek gods, for example. And then you had these Greek gods, and then they have the areas they are taking care of, and they are not always agree. So I think it's a nice model, actually, what the Greeks made, because of course it was a narrative humans made about inhuman, powerful entities. So if we have this pantheon of AGIs, we could maybe work with them as with Greek gods. But we all know that sometimes it didn't work between Greek gods, and then humans suffered bit, but in the end, the humanity survived.
Okay. So
maybe I can try again before the voice again fails me. But what I wanted to say is that the AGI doesn't have to be a separate entity from a person. Like it can be actually like some of these transhumanist visions are like that AGI can be like some kind of like algorithmical or mechanical extension of our minds. And I think that would be actually one of the very exciting things, because then we all would be AGIs in the future. So when there are like these discussions...
So 10 billion AGIs in the world?
That's the thing, basically. So that if you think about the human intelligence, it has certain limitations. And some of them are actually quite obvious. If you think about like, what's the difference between a dumb person and a smart person? Like you can say the smart person usually can think faster, has better memory, has more knowledge. Because of the better memory, it can save more information. Also, like the working memory is better usually in smart people, so that you can keep more items kind of like in your mind, and you can then do the operations faster. It's basically like the differences between us. It's actually not a huge thing. Like if you say IQ 70 against IQ 150, like if you would make a scale of the life forms, that they're like they are kind of like close to each other, even if we think that we are like vastly different in our intelligence. And now imagine that we would be able to kind of like algorithmically, mechanically using technology, able to extend our working memory, so that say if the working memory capacity, let's say it's between a super smart person and dumb person, 3 items against say 8 items, and now using the technology we can go to 100 items, and suddenly we would be able to do calculations in our minds that are currently completely impossible to do. The same way as I was giving the example, when you try to teach your dog to add numbers, it's impossible because it's outside of the scope of the mind of the dog. And we are also like, there's a lot of problems that are kind of outside of the scope of our minds that we can't really see, because you have these limitations that we are aware of. Our memory is not perfect. Our working memory is very limited. And now if you can extend this, then we all would be basically AGIs, because you would be really connecting the machine intelligence with the human intelligence, and we would be able to solve the problem. So much of the discussion that we have today about like these dangers would disappear, because we would all be becoming smarter, and then it would not be AGI against people. It would be people that would be enhanced to be basically smarter.
Zar, sorry, but I have to ask. So again, it's about what AGI is. Is it really that thing that you mentioned before, that it's the thing that is going to save the world because? And how possibly could it be any one of us or all of us? Then I'm getting confused.
Hive mind.
But that's actually very easy to connect, because imagine that we kind of like solve this AGI thing, or basically find some way how to make all of us smarter. How easier or harder do you think would be to address, say, aging, diseases, or ecological challenges if the average IQ of population, I know mathematically it's defined to be always 100, but let's say compared to the current levels, if it would not be 100, but if it would be 200, all these issues, basically all of us would be super scientists on our own.
Sorry. There is a question. How do we recognize that we actually made AGI? I mean, what you are saying now, what I understand, and I'm letting you others also join in, is that AGI is something that is going to solve problems that we are not able to solve these days, but which means problems in 5 years, in 10 years, or in 100 years. So that's what I'm really not understanding at the moment. I'm not AGI, apparently.
Yeah, I don't know. I was just trying to say also like before that AGI is not like some binary entity that we either have it or not have it, but likely there's like increasing capability of machines to solve difficult problems. The same way for humans, the same thing for combination of a human plus machine. And if we just continue on this trajectory that we already anyways going on, then we, like humans, together with machines, will be able in 20 years to solve problems that currently seem impossibly hard, but then it will be actually accessible.
Yeah, like one
Dita.
general problem like I've seen in the transhumanist community is that the capacity for like a small group of people or beings to do like very largely exponentially scaling harm. It's not just something about AGI. Like the capacity of nuclear weapons already allows a small group of people to do very, very massive harm in the world. And even if we scale up the intelligence of all people and greatly develop technology, the capacity for a few humans to do exponentially large harm on the planet might still be there. So it doesn't necessarily solve this problem.
Yeah, I also don't think it really solves this problem. If everyone's smarter, and basically it means that it can, or she or he or it can calculate better. But as you say, I know it's just a discussion. We cannot talk about everything. But this is, part of this even naivety of the progress of these bright ideas, and you never see the shadows, actually. So you think if everyone will be smarter, and if we can use our intellect, not any other capacities we have, because we didn't talk about them at all. So it's just about an intellect, and everyone will be smarter, so more intelligent. We will solve all the problems, and everything will be fine. This doesn't seem real.
Well, okay, maybe I would have some counter argument. Imagine that you can do the opposite, that you can make the global IQ half of what it currently is. Do you think the world would be better or worse?
I don't want to move with IQ and we can make simulation.
I'm not really asking whether you would do it. I'm thinking, can you imagine a world where the global IQ of the current population would be half of what it currently is? And would you imagine some of these worlds being actually better places than the current world?
The question is not fair.
I think the risk of like catastrophic harm by highly intelligent beings with like malicious intent would probably go down if we just like capped the intelligence on the planet to some relatively low level. So like, in a sense, you're right.
Okay, that's not the direction I like.
Humans are already too dangerous.
Humanity is still safe.
No, I actually just read an article. It was about intelligence, whether it is changing, and it is changing, but the average is always 100. So, yeah. Any questions from the audience? Do you want? Well, not questions. I have questions here, but any comments? Do you want to get into the discussion?
I really wonder about definitions. If you could define, or what's your favorite definition, maybe, or a class of definitions, or if you even agree with definitions. Some people say it cannot be defined, about the word intelligence, about the word artificial intelligence, or I prefer machine intelligence, about the word superintelligence, and and like it's a relation to human intelligence, because sometimes people think AGI means human intelligence, And you said that AGI is like this Solomon-of induction, basically. At least that's how the theoretical limit, basically, that we try to approximate with our systems. So if you have some favorite definitions, either very technically, like the mathematical definitions from Shane Lake, or I don't know, Francois Cholet and so on, they have some, or just through natural language that isn't as technical.
Favorite definitions of intelligence or general intelligence?
Can I? I have a highly speculative version of it. Actually, I think there is a thing like, we can call it consciousness or intelligence is maybe just a tool to really solve problems for the consciousness. And it can be, ubiquitous maybe in a universe. And once it entered this planet, it uses matter and biological matter as a medium. And actually, there is the threshold of this medium, so it contains this, let's say, desire to remake and assimilate this so-called intelligence or consciousness on another level in the machines, so it can continue, and then, of course, the pinnacle of the evolution, which we think are humans, it's just part of this greater evolution of so-called intelligence or consciousness, which is actually the principle who wants to know itself.
Yeah, I don't have such a good formal definition. I roughly think of intelligence as like the capacity to make sense of things and to figure them out, identify patterns in them, and to connect this with action. I like the idea of open-ended intelligence, which is done in a PhD thesis by someone named Weaver, who thinks that any system that has a fixed list of goals is going to be fundamentally limited and will never be proper AGI. So like the system has to somehow have some capacity for, through its experience in the world, realizing that its current goals are somehow off. And it may need to reinvent them and be open to somehow reinventing the goals based on figuring things out with the broader world in which it's a part of.
If I may, to this artificial aspect, like I was just today listening to a podcast called What is Life, which is like this Sam Harris Making Sense podcast. And it's really interesting because he speaks with a woman who has been working on some sort of artificial life for probably decades, and he asks her, like, how do you define life? And she answers like, well, actually, I don't like any definitions of any of the current definitions of life, because it's like she now starts explaining, like, if you define it like this, then there is this counterexample. So like, for example, one simple question, I already mentioned it, like, if Kurzweil gets his wish granted and he gets uploaded, will the uploaded brain of Kurzweil be artificial or biological or living or like, and another like thing she's saying there, like, is that you can really think of a lot of like non-cellular, non-biological in the our sense versions of life, which has like these properties that it sort of builds on itself, like it creates more and more complicated structures, it somehow maintains or reproduces itself. So the word, and she also mentions that one meaning of the word artificial is that it's somehow created, like God created man, right? So in this sense, I guess maybe you could say that one of the meanings behind saying artificial intelligence is that it's something we have sort of helped to create to some extent. And then I don't know whether the uploaded Kurzweil then is just like artificial or not. So.
Yeah, maybe I would add my perspective. I think that for me, like, intelligence is always kind of like solving problems, but then you get into a problem to define actually what the problem means, because it sounds easy, like problem is something I have to solve, but then you get this circular or definition. So you may want to be more like say mathematical, theoretical, I don't know how to say it exactly, but then you go to ideas like ability to see patterns that leads to like to this minimum description length, algorithmic probability, Solomonov stuff that we already discussed. It has some limitations when it comes to these halting problems, but I don't want to go into it because I think that much of it is too overstated, because whatever, let's keep that. But I think there's another angle as well. It was already mentioned here, this artificial life, because you can see intelligence as being basically a property of life that has evolved for the life forms to be able to survive. And I think that actually is one of the non-standard definitions of intelligence for me, basically the ability to survive. Of course, if we say it like this, then the humans don't really seem to be that great. Of course, we are here, but if you would actually rate the life forms about when it comes to like their a long-term perspective of survival on the planet, let's say 10,000 years from now, 100,000 years from now, 1 million years from now, and we are actually, again, that's what I was talking about, this technology. We are creating things that are helping us in the short term, but maybe hurting us in a big time in the long term. Elephants don't do that, right? Or you can think about some microorganisms that will very likely survive humanity, out-survive humanity. They will be here for like millions of years easily, because we can't even harm them with these A-bombs that people think that they are the best in the world because they can kill everybody, so we are the strongest. It's not actually true. There's a lot of life forms that we can't actually really kill on Earth, and in that sense, they are in a sense like smarter than us, because they are like just better at this survival. But again, that's more like controversial definition of what intelligence could be.
I guess one thing I find interesting here is that we have some compelling abstract definitions that are somewhat incomputable in various ways, but you can asymptotically approach. And we have many short-term goals, such as the many problems we're facing on the planet, that can motivate us. We have some clear idea of ways that humans are smart, that machines are not smarter generally yet, but not some perfect definition in between.
I also remember, like at some point, I think I discussed it with Ben. You may remember it better than I. I think I got it as some sort of question at some AGI conference, that there is this principle that you sort of want to move yourself to a position when you have most options. So you are like, I would say it connects to the capability to solve problems. You probably want to increase your capability to solve harder and harder problems. Like I said, I want to teleport myself to, I don't know, some other galaxy, and I cannot, right? So I would like to increase my position to be there. And in order to do that, I probably need to do a lot of homework, right? Like I need to invent this, and this. And once I'm there, I'm probably more omnipotent, more intelligent, whatever you would call this.
Isn't this actually quite related to this number of patterns that you can see in the data? Because
you're coming to an end. Any final question or comment from the audience? There's one, and then I would like to ask the panelists to kind of think about wrap-up or final remarks.
Je možné otázku položit v češtině a vy to pak přeložíte?
Ano.
Děkuji. Vy, jak jste hovořil o tom cestování vesmíru, tak přeci je to možné, pokud budete mít toho umělého inteligentního klona, kterýho tam pošlete jako avatara a budete žít druhý život na druhém konci galaxie. Nebo co myslíte?
Já nevím, jestli úplně...
Sorry, yeah, we should turn into English, but I'm not sure if I can actually translate the question. Můžete to prosím zopakovat?
No, pokud by pán chtěl cestovat galaxií, tak...
Yeah, if you want to travel through the galaxy,
může si, věřím tomu, pomocí umělé inteligence nového druhu vlastního klona.
Jestli si může vlastního klona co?
Sám sebe naklonovat.
Okay, I'm not sure if I get the. Nejsem si
I
jistý.
think I get the question.
Okay, thank you.
Basically,
Thank you,
it
Tomáš.
is that if you would want to travel like for long distances, explore the universe, that maybe a way how to do it is to upload to your mind, which you can actually send much faster than the body, and then you can like maybe. But that's more like oriented on the space travel than
Okay,
AI, I guess.
but now I get it. Thank you, Tomáš. Yeah. Well, I was question to you, Josef.
Yeah, well, it's like it seems simpler than some quantum teleporting myself or wormholing myself to another galaxy. We haven't done that yet, right? Like we are not capable of upload and sending. I think it's another David Brin's science fictions like this existence where you are sending all these uploaded entities throughout the galaxies. So we could do. We should be able to do at least that, but currently there is no upload. Like Goertzel is like, 76, he will die soon, and he cannot upload himself, right? So like, it's a disaster. Like we need to develop better tools for doing science.
That's a good short-term goal for AGI development on the way to universal intelligence.
So we've got the next steps.
Goertzel has.
Any final remarks? Any of you want to share with us? Otherwise, we can continue with the discussion in the lobby. No?
Jo. May I have one more question?
Okay.
Thank you.
Last one.
Myslíte, že umělá inteligence nového druhu si uvědomí sebe sama? To znamená, že bude mít své vlastní vědomí, případně podvědomí?
Finally, you're asking this question now and the end of discussion. Okay, we can start another round now.
Okay. If the question was about self-consciousness of the AGI.
If this general artificial intelligence is getting consciousness, so it's my favorite question actually, and I like the way of thinking of Joshua Bach, who was also attending this AGI conference. I wasn't attending, and he's referring to consciousness and intelligence and all these, let's say, parts of architecture of human mind. It's a software language actually. So like the spirit, the Geist is a operator of mental states, for example. So in this point of view, I will just make it short. Consciousness is a way how to control or how to have kind of identity of AGI, which is not person. Clearly, AGI will not be a person, or it could appear as a person to us, for us to understand it, but it will be more like hive mind or superorganism, something. I mean, a networked entity. I see his face. So no.
I mean, like we can say that we ourselves are a hive mind in a sense, because all your brain is a collection of neurons anyway. So
Yes, it's a population, but it's a good example. Our consciousness, it's a way how actually to live, how to experience this population of neurons as one thinking. So it's a kind of global emergent behavior actually. So the consciousness is a way how to proceed. So I think yes, it will have a consciousness, but probably this consciousness will not be easy to spot for us because it will be from definition radically different.
Sorry, yeah.
Okay. Oh, I've also thought about this question a lot, and I think rather than just asking whether AGI will be conscious in a philosophical question, we should ask, how can we test for whether a system is conscious or not? This is something that's very important with other biological animals, like cuttlefish at some point were added to the list of sentient beings by the UK, and for some reason we didn't consider them sentient before that. So do we have cognitive science-based protocol for like dynamically testing whether some AGI system, maybe its hardware instantiation matters a lot, maybe it doesn't. This is also something we want to find ways to test and probe. Like Thomas Metzinger, who studied many people with like various cognitive disorders, wrote some memorandum warning that if we're not careful, we may have an explosion of artificial suffering because we don't know enough about synthetic phenomenology to be sure that the AGI explosion is not suffering horribly as we train and run them. And we should be trying to figure out ways of testing this to figure it out. The other question I usually ask is, if we conclude that like large language model based AGI with some neurosymbolic integration running across GPU server farms is not conscious in ways that matter much more than like tables, then what is like the minimum modification to such a system that would make it conscious? Like people are already like growing brain organoids from like human nervous cells and tissue, I think via stem cells, that can then do computations. You can hook them up to a computer and they can learn to play Pong. You give them like different kinds of reinforcement signals. And what happens if you grow a larger brain organoid and you hook it up with an AGI system? So it's like maybe 95% machine, but 5% is like the human brain cells in a brain organoid synced up in a complicated way with the system. Can this system become conscious? And then you have something that's almost fully AGI that is conscious. And we're probably going to get really freaky, weird hybrids that are conscious. If not full-on machine consciousness.
Is the uploaded Goertzel conscious?
Well, this is why we need these CogSci protocols to test.
Oh,
How do we figure this out?
Yeah, and we will test Goertzel.
So that's the end. Any final remarks?
Well, my final remark is that I think to bias the world toward one where we have beneficial AGI, it is probably best to have people as integrated with the process of the ongoing training, development, and deployment of AGI systems. Like, I think it's already good that like 1 billion people are interacting with all these chatbots and seeing how to integrate them into their lives harmoniously.
Like it, yeah. Thank you. Anyone else? Tomáš?
Yeah, nothing special. As I was saying, it's, in my opinion, good to not really fall into these traps that may be around us when it comes to AI discussion. It's certainly a technology that is already here. It can make our lives better, but we have to be careful about again, not over-regulating ourselves, about looking for things that are right in front of us, which can be really like money, industry, economy. Like there's a lot of like simple things. We don't have to wait for some magical AGI with consciousness 100 years from now, but we can be discussing things that already are here today. Why don't we have AI technologies in healthcare systems? Why don't we have it in education? It could have been implemented years ago. It's still not happening. I think this is like, in my view, quite depressing because our society could have been done much more. It could have been much more efficient. People could live longer. They could live in a more healthy way. It's not happening simply because of this fear of progress. There are also people who actually benefit from the old systems where if you don't really have statistics over what decisions you are doing, it's easier to hide their things. Not going to go into details, but everybody can imagine, especially people who understand how healthcare system works and how much money is it there. So I think that it would be good to rationalize the discussion and see where actually AI can help us, not in the long term, but in the short term, and try to fulfill this potential.
Okay, makes sense. Dita.
This was rational and wise, and now it's my turn. So I would just like to say that I'm looking forward for these hyper-intelligent non-human agencies to talk with. It's just, I'm a bit anxious about the guys who are developing them right now, and I would like them to be just like me, because if I were developing AGI, it would be just, fine.
Thank you. Josef.
Yeah, I think all the important stuff has been said already. But maybe one thing, like there seems to be this fear of like when we have too much intelligence, it will destroy the world or whatever. I would say I think that there may be some probability or truth to it to some extent, but there are all these advantages, as Tomáš said, like we are becoming more and more capable, and it seems to be reasonably good for us. We are not dying when we are 30. And I would say the maybe one counter-argument to this sort of existential threat, like somebody is super smart deciding to turn us into some computronium or paper clips or I don't know what, is that there will be really a lot of intelligence among the good guys, and you maybe, because you have seen all these Terminator movies, you sort of have been programmed to think how the bad guys will be great and smart, but you haven't been conditioned to think about all the stuff that the smart good guys will be capable of, all the other crazy stuff that the good people equipped with much more intelligence will be capable of doing. So, yeah.
These were the final remarks. Is it? What is it? Now I'm curious.
I guess on the topic of regulation that I think probably makes things more dangerous, as far as I can tell, the current EU AI Act bans emotion recognition based on like biometrics such as facial images from use in education and school. Whereas I think probably having empathic AI is going to bias us towards many beneficial uses. And if you agree with this and know how to help change this act, like, please join the cause.
Thank you. I think that you all summed it up in a very nice way. I actually had the approach that let's see how the discussion evolves. So I don't want to say I didn't have any expectations. I did, but still I was very surprised. It was so much different from the London experience that I had. I was telling you about at the very beginning. And for me, it was, yeah, I enjoyed it very much. So hope you did too. And I would like to thank Zara Goertzel. Tomáš Mikolov. Dita Malečková. And Josef Urban. Thank you very much and have a nice evening.
Thank you.